Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Talkoffame podcast. I'm your host, Kylie, and today joining us, she's amazing, such an amazing guest, which is she's doing so many amazing things. We have a Maria Weston Kuhn who joining us, who's the founder of Drive Us Forward, which is a nonprofit working together to end gender discrimination in transportation. They raise public awareness to empower young people, amplify survivors, and modify grassroots support for systematic change. Drive Us Forward is such a great organization that really does make a difference. There are not a lot of companies, organizations like this from what I personally know. So once I came across Maria, I knew how to spotlight her and the Drive Us Forward on the podcast. But thank you so much, Maria, for coming on the podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm good. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Can't complain. It's already December, which is Christmas time, so I honestly can't complain. But did you after you got into a car crash a few years back, did it kind of impact you to start Drive Us Forward, or was the idea came before that?
Yeah, that is a great question. So for me, I honestly did not know a lot about transportation safety before it came into my life on that fateful day. I had been interested in women's rights for many years. I come from an amazing line of women who have fought for women's rights for generations. So basically, as you said, I was in a car crash in December 2019. And I found out afterwards from an article that my grandma cut out and mailed to me in Consumer Reports. And it's described the situation, which is that cars, are not crash safety tested with accurate female crash test dummies. And so consequently, they're not designed to protect female drivers and passengers, right? Mm-hmm. So women are significantly more likely to be injured and killed in the same car crash as men. And so that is how I originally found out about the issue. And then years later, that work became Drive.
Ooh, as someone that's always been, advocating and loved women's rights, I totally understand where you were coming from. What was your reaction when your grandma gave you that article? Because I could imagine you just probably had a big shock on your face, right?
Certainly. I remember the moment I read it, I was sitting by the fireplace with my mom and pulled out the envelope. And I remember just my hands were shaking, right? Here was a piece describing the exact injuries that my mom and I suffered, saying it wasn't, an accident as it seemed, but the result of decades of discrimination. We were shocked.
Oh, yeah. I literally would have been the same way. Honestly, if I read an article after the accident saying, "Oh, women are not as protected as men," I'd be like, what the heck is going on with the world right now?
Exactly. It's just something that you would never think of, right? Because you wouldn't think something like that would exist.
Yeah, because I didn't even know that even existed, to be quite honest with you, until I came across Drive Us Forward. When I saw it, I'm like, that's a thing today?
I know. One more thing to worry about, right? I didn't know a single thing about transportation safety regulations, honestly anything about the Department of Transportation. So I definitely had a lot of learning to do when I first got involved.
Yeah, definitely. After you came across that article and you kind of started to kind of got more aware of that. How did you kind of first started your activism towards that topic? Because I know you started Drive Us Forward a while after that, but what kind of started off?
Yeah. So I learned about it from that article, right? I began reading as much about it as I possibly could because I didn't know anything. And so I was passed on to Caroline Criado Perez's book, Invisible Women, which I highly recommend. And started reading. I started connecting with other car crash survivors online, and I began writing. So I partnered up with another survivor named Hannah Shank, who's an incredible person, incredible author. And she and I wrote a piece for Fast Company. And that actually went #1 on Apple News, went decently viral, and that was kind of our starting point. And then I wrote a few follow-up pieces after that. And we started getting traction, some attention in the press, some interviews here and there. And like I joined the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety, which falls under the UN. And so I kind of began that way. And I was really lucky, and I met with members of Congress, and I met with folks in the Department of Transportation, but still nothing was changing. So when I graduated college last December, I just kind of had this awakening that just me, like, I was never going to be able to do this. This is going to take so much more than just one kid, right?
Yeah.
So I decided shortly after I graduated to create Drive. So we are a Gen Z advocacy nonprofit. We're a 501c3, and we work, as you said, to raise public awareness around the issue, create engaging, unique content, get as many young voices on the scene as we can, and then kind of mobilize that grassroots support. So as of now, we have a few accomplishments that I'm pretty proud of. We, at first, one of the first things that we did was we created like a call out movement on TikTok. So we had I think 10,000 people leave comments on Ford, Chrysler and Nissan videos on TikTok and Instagram, asking them why they don't want to crash test cars for women. We had a petition we sent it to President Biden, Secretary Buttigieg, with over 18,000 signatures. Now it's nearing 30,000. Recently we worked with elected officials to get our language into the FY 2024 appropriations bill report. So we will hopefully have a law soon. And it's been such an incredible gift to, work on this and meet so many incredible young people, young women like yourself. I'm just so grateful to have had these chances.
Like when you first started, I'm kind of curious, like after you started doing advocacy and Drivers Forward, like how did people react like to like everything going on? Because I'm sure there were a lot of mixed emotions, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people had reactions like you and I did. Like, how does this exist? I can't believe this is real. It's, 2020, whatever. How is this still happening? So there were a lot of reactions like that. One reaction that I found particularly tricky was when I would tell someone in power about it, and they'd be like, oh my God, no, that's terrible. We have to do something about it. And then nothing would happen. Right.
Oh, really?
And I found, yes, so many people. And I think there are a lot of significant institutional forces that oppose this kind of movement. And so it's easy to fall into that. But I think most people are shocked that it exists.
Yeah, because of course, with transportation, like of course many people think, oh, it's the safest way to drive somewhere or like go on a truck. But it's not always like it. But of course, women and young girls face more of that than men do in terms of getting to a car crash and getting severely injured. Like there's different ways to how people really approach it. But like you said earlier, like you work with different elected officials with your organization, but how do you kind of exclusively work with elected officials to end gender discrimination in transportation?
Yeah, so we kind of do a variety of things. Our main purpose is to raise the voices of young people in America because, one or whatever, 5 people may be easy to ignore, but when you are able to educate a lot of folks on the issue and help them use their voice, that I think is what's most powerful for the people who represent us. So this issue is a little bit challenging for working with elected officials because the actual solution has to be implemented by Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who's not elected. And so what we kind of have to do is increase the pressure on folks around him by using the tools that we have. So like the petition, we sent that to him because we can't vote him out, right? We can't threaten to vote him out. But for elected officials, we've been very lucky. We've had success with members of Congress, state and local officials who have been willing to stick their necks out for us.
Ooh, that's amazing. Like, I remember, like, I forgot to ask you what you said about the petition. Like, did the petition ever go to Joe Biden's desk yet, or does he kind of know about it, or is it kind of still up in the air?
So we certainly mailed it to him. I hope that it got to his desk. I've heard rumors over the years that different folks, including President Biden, are aware of it. As I said before, it's kind of tricky because the auto industry historically is anti-regulation and they're very powerful lobbyists. So folks are definitely hearing from them for sure.
Especially the president of the United States, like if the people don't listen to him, then no one's really gonna listen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a little bit tricky.
Yeah. And like how does Drive Us Forward really kind of work towards safety standards in automobiles?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it's a similar kind of thing where it's all about raising the voices of the people who care about this across the country, right? And youth are like increasingly affected by road safety standards. Road traffic injuries are the number 2 killer of young people in America. It used to be number 1, but guns overtook it like a year or 2 ago, not because road safety deaths were going down, but because guns are going up. Anyway, so it's important to amplify those voices. So I think that's one important way that we do it, right? It's bringing new folks on board. It's bringing on voices who have been historically excluded from the transportation justice conversation. And it's doing things like sending these petitions, sending letters, encouraging the regulators at the Department of Transportation to make substantive change. And it's things like the appropriations language that we worked on.
Yeah, because of course, when you guys started a few years back, even with having the knowledge, it was like you said, not every elective official will take it like kind of serious and be like, oh, leave this to the president of the United States.
Yeah.
He cares about this, like let's leave it up to him. He should be doing something in a couple of months. And after a few months, it never happens.
Exactly.
So always like leads to something that's never happening. And we kind of always to send letters or petitions. Like how many people signed your petition, by the way? 19,000? Like, or was
when we sent it, yeah, it was like I think it was a little bit above 18,000, but now it's nearing 30,000.
Oh, that's amazing. So it's
Thank you.
with having like just send that many people write petitions to the president's desk, it really kind of shows how much of a factor this really plays in women and young girls' life each day. Because
Right.
every day it kills many girls and young women in car crashes every day. It's really impacting every time a young girl, woman gets steps into the car each day.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we were talking about before, right? Like the shock of knowing that this is true, right? And I myself, like having survived a car crash aside, like stepping into a car, buckling into a seatbelt, knowing it wasn't designed for me is a really scary feeling. And I think if you're able to tell young women and young girls across the country that this is a reality that we face, like I think that's how we get people motivated to make change.
Yeah, exactly. To add on to that, like why do you think like when the people that are making the cars don't make the cars like kind of safe to say for young girls and women, like for the men? Like, why do you think they don't make it as safe?
Yeah, well, I think people in car safety design, they make it as safe as the government says that they have to. And it's pretty rare for a car company to go above and beyond that standard.
Mhm.
I think the standard was set many years ago with only men at the table,
Yeah.
right? So like no one was speaking up for us for sure. And so I think that's probably a big part of it.
Yeah, it really is. Because of course, when the United States became the United States, no women were elected or even allowed to vote or allowed to be kind of part of the table. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
told late in the 1900s that women were allowed to vote and kind of get a say in things. And that really says a lot
Yeah.
in what really how much women has played a role in politics, especially in what we have to say. Because of course, with Gen Z, every year with the elections, it really always sometimes increases and decreases each year with the voting. So really is the matter of kind of get women a seat at the table and kind of get a say. Because of course, we didn't really have a say in those things until many years after we became a country.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, for sure.
But like what does like gender discrimination in transportation look like? Because of course it can be described in many different ways, but what does you kind of look like in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think, well, there's a lot to it for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
And there are many facets to that answer. I can speak to what I know. And to me, it looks like the fact that women are 73% more likely to be severely injured in the same crash as men and 17% more likely to be killed, right? And that's been true for decades. That's what that looks like to me. I was also speaking to friends earlier today who we were saying, wow, it's tough we're not safe in cars. And, to make matters worse, I don't really feel safe as a woman on public transportation at least half the time, right? And I
Mhm.
can't walk alone at night, and I can't bike alone at night, and I can't run alone at night as a woman. So what am I supposed to do? So
Yeah.
that is definitely part of the gender discrimination, in mobility and transportation. So
Yeah,
again,
like
there's
that
a lot to
reminds me of what you said, because of course, like with going out, whether it's like going on a walk or a run, like I'm the type of person that loves to be active on the outside, whether it's like
it.
whether it's warm outside or just do something inside or at the gym. Like every time I go outside, whether it's like a walk or a run, like my parents always say, "Oh, Kylie, be careful! Like you don't want people kidnapping you," and I'm like, what world do we actually live in? Because of course, when our parents grew up, it was a thing, but our parents and that generation were much safer to go on a walk or a run or rather bikes with friends or alone. Like it was much safer than what we live in. Because of course, many kidnaps and trafficking happens so much, I could say, each day to the point where like we can't even walk or do anything by ourselves anymore.
Right. And it's really tough because, as you said, I love being outside. And I'm
Mm.
really jealous of my male friends who get to go on night hikes by themselves and get to go on walks after dinner. And it's like, that is awesome for you guys. I wish that I could do that without being terrified.
Yeah, because like whenever I'm going on a walk at night to remember to go into a friend's house or something, I'm like, I just want to go home. Like I kind of just want to eat faster because of course I love
Yeah.
walking, but at night I'm just like I'd rather just have my brother pick me up and just walk with me. Like rather than
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm really so jealous of all the males that can just ride their bikes alone, walk while we just have to be so scared about every time we go outside.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
But I know with there's so many questions to really how we get gender discrimination in car testing because there's so much things we need to do specifically. But like in your opinion, like how can we end gender discrimination in car testing?
Yeah, so luckily for us, there are some really like tangible solutions that we can be enacting, rather the government can be enacting soon. And so I think our main goal right now is to have the Department of Transportation mandate the use of an accurate female crash test dummy, which they already own, called the Thor 5F or the Thor 5th in the driver's seat equally as the male dummy. Um, as I said, they already own this accurate female dummy. Unlike our current, like, quote unquote female dummy that they use, it is modeled after the body of people assigned female at birth. So it has female bones, muscles, organs, everything like that, that make a huge difference in how our bodies react to force in a collision. So that would be number one, to get them to bring that dummy into crash testing. And again, it's so important that they put it in the driver's seat, because women make up the majority of licensed drivers in America. So we should be getting tested in the driver's seat in frontal crashes. So that's the biggest thing. And then continuing to develop male and female accurate dummies of different sizes and dimensions, as the American body type continues to evolve. And also just requiring more regular evaluations of crash testing standards over the next few years, so we don't get caught up in something like this again.
Definitely. And like our research was shown previously that men are kind of less likely to kind of get hurt, like less hurt than women. But once I saw that, I'm like, how is that possible? Like, how are they not getting treated or hurt the same? But like, why do you think men get less likely hurt than women?
Yeah, so that's because when cars are crash safety tested, right, they go through a series of collisions with crash test dummies inside. In these standards currently that the US government performs, there are certain male crash test dummies and there are certain female crash test dummies. The quote unquote female crash test dummy is called the hybrid 3/5. It weighs 108 pounds. It stands 4'11" tall. And unlike the new Thor 5th dummy, the hybrid 3/5 has the internal structure of a male. So it's representative of male bones, organs, stuff like that. As I said, that has a really big difference on how a body responds in a crash. On top of that, this tiny inaccurate dummy is only placed in the rear and passenger seats. So they're not measuring the impact of crashes on women in the driver's seat or on accurate female bodies at all. So because of that, airbags, seatbelts, all those protective elements are not designed to protect women and put us at a way higher risk of being injured and killed. So that's why.
Oh, that's so interesting. I literally like I'm literally so surprised at everything you're literally saying, because it's like of course it's not being talked about as much, but it's something that is um kind of getting less and less talked about each day with transportation.
Yeah.
But like of course with car safety, a lot of people oftentimes do and don't talk about car safety. Of course they tell us how to drive in the road, but with getting our license they don't really talk up to us about car safety and how we can make ourselves, kind of more safe driving on the roads. But of course, if we are not going to, if we don't know about it, we can't tell other people when they're driving. But but how can we as people really help educate young people about car safety?
Yeah, I think one really important thing is just what you're doing is talking about it, right? Telling people, and these issues in transportation are not necessarily like sexy, right? Not like hot, hot, hot. It's not as fun as talking about like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, of course. So they don't just come up naturally in conversation. But I think having these kind of chats as we are, is really important to normalizing that sort of thing. I think there are increasing conversations in teen driver safety around like drunk driving and stuff like that. Another element that's honestly very important to that conversation is that it goes just beyond, teen young driver behavior, and it goes to car design and road design. So things like speed limit, and general like public land design, right, in cities and, things like that. So there's a lot of work to be done. There are many amazing organizations that are working to educate young folks on transportation safety, groups like National Organization for Youth Safety, or NOISE, Students Against, I think, Destructive Decisions, SAD, SADD, the Vision Zero Youth Council, Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. There are many amazing resources out there. If folks are interested, there will be a panel put on by the National Safety Council this Friday that I will be on, that will be talking about this very topic. So if folks want to learn more, they can do it there. But I would say it'll be a multi-pronged approach for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's literally a perfect way to end off this episode. I really love what you're doing, and like literally couldn't like I really learned more about transportation in this episode than I learned my entire life, to be quite honest with you. But I will make sure to put the event link below for you guys to sign up to this event. I'm definitely going to sign up after this interview is over, but it basically seems so interesting. I need to literally educate myself on these topics because I really don't know much, but I kind of want to learn. So, but thank you so much, Maria, for coming on. It was such an honor to talk with you, and we definitely have to do another part 2 to this. It's such an important topic to talk about. And I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time. And thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to go check Maria out, and because she's doing amazing work. And thank you everyone for listening. And I see you guys soon. And thank you, Maria, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you everyone for listening. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.